guys, the truck is on the stand. It's finally time to do a proper brake job. Sorry about the noise. So let's start it.
Our RickStuff Store is finally open, so go on spreadshirt.ca today to save as much as 15% on your RickStuff gear and accessories. Type RickStuff in the search bar and you will be redirected directly on our store page, where you'll find everything you need, whether it is for man, woman, kids, or even dog accessories. Look how rusty it is. I needed to take the hammer to remove the pad from these grooves. This is the clip. They were stuck so hard in that gap, and with the thickness of the rust plus the thickness of the clip, the brake pad were simply not moving. They were stuck in there. I needed the hammer to remove them. So now I'm grinding the gap so the clip fit well and the brake move freely. The buildup of rust was so thick, nothing was moving. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's not perfect. You can see the grinder mark, but at least now when I will install the pin, they will still have room for the brake pad to move. This is what the first one was looking like. There's no chance for a brake pad to move in this thing. So it need to be grinded, grease, and then reinstall the brake pads. There's some grease, but I will add some more. These pins are what's allowing your caliper to move freely when you're braking. If those pins are getting dry out, your caliper will stop moving and your brake won't work at all. So you need to make sure that it's properly greased every time you replace the brake so the caliper move freely in all time. She's working fine. See, this one is a little dirty here. Depending where you buy your brake pad, this grease is come in a pack, in a kit. I always buying my pretty much all my parts at rockauto.com. I don't know if you have this grease in pack when you buy your brake pad in a parts store, in a Honda parts store. When you grease the mount, you need to make sure you don't put any on the pad, obviously, or neither on the rotor, because it will obviously don't break, and it will also ruin your pad. You can always wash the rotor, but the pad will be ruined, so just make sure not to put any grease on the pad. And you do the same process for the 4 wheels and both end of the calipers, the upside and the downside. So every caliper move freely and every brake pad also move freely. So you have the best braking as possible. Since the brake pad were not moving, they were practically new, so the only thing I did to them is to shave them on sandpaper so they are straight, and I reinstalling the same pad since they are as thick as brand new pads. There we go. Fit much better now. There's no more hitting with the hammer now. They're loose. It is the way it's supposed to be. What look like behind. And when you install this, you need to put this spring before installing the shoes on the truck, because there's no way you can install this spring after it's on the truck. So the first step is to install this spring, and we install the retaining pin. So to remove the parking brake actuator, which is this, the easiest way is to first remove the cable from the bracket, so you have more leverage to pry and to remove the cable from this hook. Mine was stuck in the rust, so I grease it. It's ready to be installed. It's like a brand new. And those things have a side. A lot of people make the mistake of not paying attention on which side they remove, and they mix the two sides. This one is the passenger side. You can see because that tip is facing down. But if you mismatch it with the driver's side, you will end up with this tip up. So it will block your shoe from closing at the right position. So when you will try to put back your rotor, it will not want to go in. So it's important to make sure when you remove them to pay attention which one is on which side. Or if you're not sure, or if you forget already, this pin go down. So in my case, the hook go there because it's hooking on a cable. The pin is behind and it's down. So it's the right position. It's supposed to go like that. To hook it back, it's a little more complicated. I tried different way, but the easiest way I found for me was with those duck vice grip. I found a much better way to compress that spring, but unfortunately my camera was not recording when I did it on the other side. It consists in sticking a screwdriver in the hole of the cable and applying the parking brake completely down, so the spring is fully compressed. After that, you only need to tie up the spring on each side with steel wire so it doesn't release by itself, and you release the parking brake, and after that you can remove the flat screwdriver and you have plenty of free cable to move around to hook up the parking brake actuator into the cable hole. Now I should have enough room to hook it up. Am I in? Almost in. Yeah, I am in. Fantastic. So before cutting your wires, you put the cable back in so it stays straight, and you cut your wires one at a time. So now the spring has full tension. There's no danger that the hook will get out of there. As I said, it's not the fastest way maybe, but it worked for me. The spring's pushing on the hook, so there's no danger that the hook can go out by itself, since you have to almost make a 90 degrees angle to put it on and off the cable. As I was explaining earlier, this tip must be facing down, and a lot of people made the mistake of switching both sides together and the tip face up, so the shoe on this side don't want to get in its place and you can put the rotor on. When you're installing the shoes on these, you need to put this upper spring first, because you can't do it after. And it's out. I will put the pin on this shoe. Some people remove the complete axle to do that. It's not necessary. It's easier obviously, but you're wasting oil. Unless you're due to your oil change on your differential, it's another story, but apart from that, it's not very necessary to remove the axle to do this job, but it is easier. There we go, one's done. Come on. Here we go. After that, we install the adjustment. When you install the adjustment, you need to make sure to put the screw or the teeth, the adjustment part, align with the holes, so when the rotor is on, you can adjust your shoes. And when it's on, the only thing left is to put this little spring here. Sometimes it's pretty hard to put it on, especially with a camera in the way. Just need a little out. There we go. Now we can put some anti-seize so the rotor won't stuck. The rotor won't be stuck the next time. I will remove it. There we go. Now we'll try to tighten it without going on my knees. Try it if it's stuck. Now I'm going to apply the parking brake and see if it's tight enough and it blocking the wheel from turning. Now I know it's tight enough, and the final parking brake adjustment will be done only after the wheel will be on a truck, so I can really see if the parking brake can stop the truck from moving. It's important not to forget that rubber plug, so there's no water that getting in there. Now I will obviously need to push my piston because I have new brakes. It won't get in. No much, but a little bit. It's recommended to open the bleeder, put a hose, and let the other tip of the hose in a recipient with brake fluid in it, so there's no bubble, there's no air coming back into the system, and the old oil that cooked in the caliper is supposed to go back by the bleeder instead of going back in the system. But I am planning on doing a complete brake fluid flush, so it's not a big deal. Apart from the parking brake step, which it was the hardest part in my opinion, you need to do this for the 3 other wheels, but it's really is the same process even if it's in the front of the truck, with the only difference that in the front you have 2 pistons instead of 1 on the caliper, so you need to use a piece of wood or a small piece of metal to push both pistons in the same time. But apart from that, it is the same job. The only thing I found annoying is that I have a spongy pedal, which I didn't have before. But I decided to replace the entire brake fluid. I will bleed the system as well, so I will fix my spongy pedal. As you saw, the hardest part of the job is to replace or to install the parking brake assembly, all that stuff, even with brand new parts. But after the parking brake setup is done, this brake is pretty easy to work with. It's pretty much all the same for every vehicle. Some vehicle has more funny way to put back the brake cylinder at their position, like Mazda, where you need to spin it, but it's not the case for the Ford. It was straight up pushing the piston and installing the caliper, and everything was done basically. but don't forget to clean your rotor before installing them, because from the factory they are applying some grease or wax, or I don't know what is on the disc, but they're applying some stuff to avoid corrosion when they're in the storage. So don't forget to wash the rotors or drum if you're working with drum brake. But apart from that, it's basically a straightaway job. So thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the little bell so you will be notified as soon as I will release a new video. So on this, I wish everybody a great day. See you later. Bye.